Hi, everyone, and welcome. It's great to see everyone. My name is Lisa. I'm from South Africa, a small town called Robertson. I have taught English to people of all ages in groups, one-to-one, all sorts of places. So today we are talking about mixed ability classes, which is a very interesting topic today. All right. So we will jump straight in. If you'd like to say where you're from and say hi, I will look at everyone's comments and we will chat shortly. So to start off with, we will do some slides and go through all of the points. And then afterwards, there will be half an hour where you can ask any question that has to do with mixed ability classes, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. So hi, I already see someone else from South Africa. Hi, Lucia. Good to see you. So good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're from. Here it is very chilly, and I'm sure in the northern hemisphere it's nice and warm. All right, great. So let us jump in. All right, some more people from South Africa. Hi, Suzette from Cape Town. I'm originally from Cape Town. Okay, we are going to go straight in. So in TESL and TEFL, it's very common to have a class with students that are of the same level, for example, pre-intermediate, but have mixed abilities, which means that students may excel in some parts of the language and struggle in others. So some learners' fluency levels could be higher, however, their accuracy might be low. Other students might do well in grammar, but need to improve their listening skills and vocabulary. Students also learn at a different pace. Some need to repeat new information or need more time to process it, while others grasp new concepts quickly. And each of the learners will have their own challenges and strengths, as you know if you've ever taught. Motivation is also an important factor. The reason that your students have decided to study English won't be the same as well, and will also affect their motivational levels. So I have diverse reasons for learning English, and as a result, some kids get forced to learn English. Other people are doing English because they really want to learn the language, so that will determine their enthusiasm for each class. Okay, so in a big class, you might have students from different countries. From all over the world, their exposure to English language will differ as well as their educational backgrounds. So they'll also be accustomed to certain teaching methods different to others, which is why we need to use various strategies to ensure that all our students can enjoy their lessons and, of course, develop their English skills. So there are a few different approaches that we will look at now that will help teaching a mixed ability class. I'm thinking I have had some, and it really is a challenge right from the beginning. Okay, so to start off with, create a learner-centered environment, which will tell us about learners' strengths and challenges in English. So we need to find out who the students are in the class and what their particular personal challenges are. Highlight students' learning preferences, which will show us how motivated they are. So we need to use various strategies, and I'm looking at two lots of notes at once. Okay, so the first thing we need to do when you have a class, say you have 12 different students, that's a lot. Just say we have 6. Assess each student's learning needs, get to know them better. By conducting a needs analysis, we get to understand our students' challenges in learning English and also see where they are thriving and doing well. So not only where they're struggling and need help, but also where they're doing well and succeeding. We can also understand their learning preferences and gauge their levels of motivation. So always look at each person in your class. Because they aren't all at the same level, you need to look at each student separately as one of the whole. Okay. So the needs analysis. If we have this information, will allow us to adapt our teaching methods and lesson plans so our students don't feel pulled back or on the other hand, push too hard. So it makes perfect sense. We need these needs analyses. They're also useful to check on and monitor our learners' progress. In addition, getting to know your students helps us as teachers establish a good rapport with our learners, which helps them feel supported and motivated and confident. So really put the work in right at the beginning to figure out what each student needs, what their particular specific need is as a student. All right. How are needs analyses done? I see more students arriving from Brazil. Hi. I should just wait till afterwards, but I do get distracted by people going, hello, hello. All right. So needs analyses. Okay. It can be done through a one-on-one interview. So you just take a moment. It doesn't even have to be that formal. You could just chat to someone. Or you can use surveys and find out that you can fill things in, and obviously assessment tests, which makes perfect sense. It's beneficial to do a few of these evaluations during the course so you can see how students have progressed and how their needs might have changed. So one in the beginning of your course and one at a different stage, because someone might be struggling right at the beginning and might do a lot of homework and do very well and then move forward. So it's not just a one-off. In the beginning, in the middle, and later on as well. So assess your students not just once, but again and again. All right, all makes perfect sense as well. Grouping and pairing students. All right. So variety is key. For accuracy-based activities, pair students who find these tasks difficult with students who excel at them. So you put the ones who are doing very well with the in the task. So say they have to do a freer practice stage and they have to answer a bunch of questions. If you get some that are very confident and doing well, working with some who are more shy and battling, then they can share their different strengths and weaknesses. Peer teaching, so getting the students to check on each other and teach each other, also allows students to review their knowledge and retain it more effectively. So after they've done a worksheet, then they work together to check through the answers. That kind of thing will be very effective. So also, for instance, one student is very good at speaking and another student might be very good at writing. So pair your students carefully in each activity that you have. All right, so group of 3 pairs, half the class, all makes sense. All right, in fluency-based tasks, so that will be your freer practice stage, group learners with similar strengths, then they can work at the same pace and feel sufficiently challenged. That also, so you can pair higher level students with lower level students in some activities, and sometimes you put all the not overachievers. You get overachievers in school. Okay, so you get everybody who's doing very well can be in a group together so that they work at the same pace, and those who are battling could also work in a group, and then they don't feel so pressured. So there are different strategies within each stage in your lesson. Different strategies will work differently. Okay. So still talking about fluency-based tasks. Less proficient students can work at a comfortable speed and feel at ease to produce the language. Whereas if they're less proficient students are with more proficient students, then they might feel incredibly pressured that they now have to produce language and they're like, ah! So feel that out as well. It has to be done very carefully and the word I'm thinking of it's not coming to my head. I'm thinking, it will come probably later or tomorrow. All right. Okay. So another benefit of getting to know your students is you can make effective decisions when pairing them up, knowing who works well together. Also, sometimes friends can work together, which is great. Sometimes friends work together and they don't actually do any of the work because they're too busy chattering away and being friends. And maybe they're not speaking in English, maybe speaking in their first language. So all of these tiny things will play a part during your lesson. Okay. Use a range of activities, which makes sense, so that then the variety caters to learners' different needs and abilities. As I said earlier, some read very well, some speak very well, some battle with talking, some battle with pronunciation. So each student will have the opportunity to practice the areas they need to improve, but also get the chance to do well and feel confident. So numerous activities, different activities will help develop the 4 skills, obviously reading, writing, listening, speaking, as well as grammar and vocabulary. And within a group of students with different abilities, you won't have 2 students who are the same. They will all be different. So because there are so many different things you have to deal with within an English class, you'll be swapping. You'll be swapping all the time. No, you won't. I'm talking nonsense. But that things to take into consideration the whole time. This one is very good at reading, and group that one with this student. So it's all the time you are making decisions. So with our range of activity, every single student gets the opportunity to practice the areas they need to improve, and everyone also gets a chance to excel and feel confident. So the one that now is reading so well can show that they're making great progress, and others can work more on their grammar or their whatever. All right. Differentiation involves creating and planning tiered activities or different activities for our mixed ability learners. This can involve some extra work in your planning as a teacher, but if you keep your materials and build up your own teacher's resource file, you'll thank yourself later on. So all the lessons that you're doing in your assignments, you can, once you have that lesson, you can use it again and again. And once you have that lesson for a mixed ability class, you can also, make notes, and then that will, keep you in good stead for future classes where you teach the same topic. This one was very good for students who battle with vocabulary. So that. And that kind of note that you keep with your notes will help you going forward. Let's say you're planning a reading lesson. You know that some of your learners really struggle with understanding texts, while others do really well at it. You could provide extra support materials for the learners who struggle, like visual aids or vocabulary support. And the same goes for speaking and listening tasks. So a great example given to us. For writing tasks, you could provide the less proficient students with vocabulary prompts or sentence starters, which are always useful. So things to start the sentence off. Prompts in any activity going to help your students do well. For grammar, you could provide different levels of difficulty in your worksheets and use less complex language in the easier activities. So as long as you're using the same, you're all learning the same grammar, but some students have, the reading, so the reading material is a little bit more advanced than the less proficient students will have a simpler reading activity. So again, your students, you prepare in advance. Open-ended activities. Okay, since your students in mixed ability classes will work at different paces, structure your exercises in open-ended ways so that your students can complete as much as they are able to without feeling too much pressure. And the stronger students will have the opportunity to practice more complex language. So students who are battling, they don't have to compete. I just misread that at all. That's the point. They don't have to compete by completing. They can do it in their own time. And stronger students can practice more complex language and maybe get an extra task to do. So maybe so those that need support can do 1 to 5, and the stronger students can do 1 to 10. maybe the 1 to 5 can do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 at home as homework. So that's the kind of thing that you just need to be free about and not like so structured. All right, extra tasks. So this goes a little bit. Provide students who finish early with extra tasks to keep them engaged. Makes me think when I was very little and learned to read, I was so excited in grade 1. And they just gave me so much stuff to read because I would just read and read and read and read and read. I don't know if you've ever in a class where everyone reads together, and I would be right through school, a quick reader. So go right to the end. You like have to page back to catch up with it, to go back to where the teacher's at. Makes so much sense. Extra tasks to keep them engaged. Otherwise, those students will get bored. Homework or practice outside lessons will help the less advanced students improve. So that extra work that the more advanced ones are doing in class, the less advanced ones can do in their own time at home as homework. If students struggle with speaking or listening, you can give them small tasks in the real world. For example, go to a library or bookstore and find out if they have the following books. So maybe, that's a great idea. If you go to a restaurant or cafe this weekend, order your own food and ask the waiter about the specials. Imagine that would be terrifying. Watching films or series in English, reading books in English, also good for extending listening skills. Also books that maybe students are interested in a kind of comic or book, and they used to read them in their own language, and then you could suggest that they read those in English. It would be a great task. All right. Correcting. So correcting in mixed ability classes. Students who find accuracy difficult may make more mistakes than their classmates. So accuracy could be within grammar or maybe pronunciation or even vocabulary. And use correcting techniques that don't single out their errors. You don't want to lower their confidence levels. Of course not. So be gentle. Gentle was the word that I was thinking of earlier. So be gentle in how you put your classes together and think about how your students, all the differences and how that will make them feel as children or adults. Because confidence, self-confidence, it's a huge thing. All right. Ideas to correct without exposing the person who made the mistake. Which is why group work is very useful and why peer correction is also useful. To not, you always leave out the last. Obviously, don't do that. Taking notes of the whole class's errors and writing them on the board afterwards is a good way to manage this. Students won't necessarily know who made the error. So you don't say, it was John that made that error. You just like general errors. These are some of the errors that were made during the class. Then those individual people are not singled out. Students won't know who made the error, and they can also practice self-correction as they should find and correct the errors themselves. That's a good way to do it, to write everyone's errors together. And you can praise everyone together as well. Was it me? All right. In conclusion, this is quite quick, and I'm probably speaking too quickly, but having a mixed ability class can be a fun and productive experience. Using a variety of strategies helps to create an environment where students benefit from each other and have the opportunity to shine. So that's a good point, the benefit from each other. So those who are working, well, again, not everyone who's working slower is necessarily bad at everything. They might be slower in one part but faster in the other. So having a mixed ability class generally can learn from the good and the bad from all of your classmates. All right. So that is a bit quick today, but it's a very interesting topic. And now we already go into Q&A. So any questions that you have about mixed ability classes and other people are also welcome to give input and ideas as well. I didn't think I'd rush through this. While people are gathering their thoughts, all of the webinars that happen on Saturday evening afternoons are all on the YouTube channel. So any webinar that you are looking for, if you're busy with an assignment, whichever one, all the assignments, there are webinars specifically for the assignments, and often many versions of it. So all the different webinar people have all done a version of assignment L3A or assignment L5B, whatever. So the different versions are on the YouTube page. So on the TTA YouTube page, if you go to videos on their page, then you can find all of the webinars that have been done for the last year or two. They're all there forever. Okay, there are lots of great hellos from people. So hi from Brazil, hi from the Netherlands. Okay, and already some great questions coming in. All right. This is a good one. Lucia, what if a student can't speak English at all? How do you communicate? Okay, sure, big question. I'm not sure if that is the only one student at a time or if a student is part of a mixed ability class. And depending on the age. So if this is a younger student, a child, for instance, then visuals, pictures, and videos, that you're teaching from videos, but just, someone walking in the park, he is walking, or cartoons, that it's a person, that it's a bear, he walks to the beach, like whatever. So pictures and simple videos for someone who cannot speak English at all. If it's an adult, then I'd start with small things like, mime is always good. The basic phrases, hello, and my name is, when does it happen? When is he here? So it's a challenge. Absolute beginners, there is another whole webinar done by a few people, I would imagine, on teaching absolute beginners. And then there are what they call real beginners and false beginners. Because some people, it seems like they don't know anything, but they've probably watched English movies or seen English advertisements. So people in the world have all seen some kind of English. So it's very, how do you communicate? With difficulty, to be honest. And if they're part of a group, then you might have to even get their friends who maybe speak their first language to help out. That's what I'd help. Okay. I hope that is of some use. Let's go on to another question. I hope that's of some use, but a great question. All right, another good one. For new teachers, hi Kuromi. Will the school provide details on who may need extra help in a class, or is it expected we figure it out ourselves? Often the school will tell you, they'll tell you the level of a class. This is an intermediate class. They'll tell you that. Or if it's just one student, they might tell you the student is a beginner, or the student is very advanced. So I think a school might be able to tell you. If it's a big class, they probably won't have details of everyone in the class. If it's one student at a time, probably they will have some details for you. But I think you probably will have to figure out some of it yourself. And new teachers you only knew for a day or two, and then you're in, and then you know, and then you're working it out. So you knew, and then you're doing it. So, but I think you will have to. You might get a general note on it, but you'd have to find out more detail. All right. Hi from President Tal. Hi. Hi, Mandy. Okay, here's another question. How do you stretch demotivated, stronger students in a mixed class and succeed in, very good question, avoiding them feeling marked out, to motivate them when you are effectively giving them more work than everyone else? Very good question. It's demotivated. Yeah, no. Fun work. Maybe the extra work could be fun. Like for instance, they are, I don't know what level they're at, but maybe they must watch a movie or a series and report back on that, because that's fun. Or if they are at a lower level, maybe in the class they get to do a fun exercise while everyone else is still busy with a gap fill. Maybe that student can do an extra quiz, an online kind of, like a Kahoot kind of quiz. That doesn't seem like punishment. It's like something fun to do. Or maybe even something creative, that they get to draw a picture that goes along with an activity. So I would just like find something that was fun. I think that goes with all students. If it's fun, they don't feel like, oh, why me? If the extra activity is something that's like, oh, lucky you get to do that, then it would be, you wouldn't feel like you were just having more work. So again, a balance. It's all balance and being gentle and careful and finding out. But if extra work is fun, it could be less. Then you don't feel like, why do I have to do more work? Absolute beginners and false beginners last week. Yes, I did one last year, I think, or early in the year. So they do get done again. These because each one might start with the same slides and the same information, but the students who come always have new things to bring to them. So the beginning part of the YouTube video is the same, and then the end is like completely different. I've watched all the ones I've done. I've watched the other ones that other people have done first, and then in my class, in my one, it's like we didn't touch on any of that. We did completely different questions, which is why they're such fun to do. All right, thank you, Lucia. I hope these are useful answers. Okay, thank you, Lucia, for your great question. Hi from Oxford, UK. Okay, another great question. How can I discipline a misbehaved or active child in class? That is such a good question. I teach a class of mixed ability students. This is really, it is very hard. Children who are naughty, I think distraction is always, if they're at least sitting down in desks, maybe an extra task that's, I find that if you give students tasks to do that you might think are very dull, but like handing out the worksheets or handing out the pens, that kind of thing, unfortunately, then everyone wants to hand out the worksheets and everyone wants to hand out the pens. So, me, and then that becomes a thing. But to give the misbehaved child, if obviously you do all the normal things, please be quiet, please concentrate, but if you give them maybe tasks that, if you behave, you can collect all the worksheets at the end of a class. Bribery is a good thing. At the end of the term, maybe there's sweets, I don't know. But it's hard, and don't shout is one of the things, because you just get hoarse, and children don't really listen. But I think creative things for naughty children to do, this sort of keep them distract them, give them something else to do, is the best way that I've found. Or change the activity that they are So you're busy working on something. I mean, obviously you can't drop everything. But say we've only got 5 minutes left, and then you've finished your worksheets, and then we're going to watch something else. So that you sort of change the energy in the class sometimes helps. All right. You see me thinking, I can picture the children in my head. All right. There's another great comment. So about Lucia. Last week, I'm a real newbie. We all start as newbies, and then eventually we get like, I don't know how to know if a student can use scissors to cut out the right picture. To answer the question, I'm overthinking this. I think you might be overthinking this. And if the child's very small and scissors are a real danger, children, I have found that children nowadays, as opposed to children in the olden days, are not as good with scissors. I think it's because of all the online stuff and not being quite as physical, just generally. So I've found that I've worked with kids, even crafting. So I really have worked with children with scissors. And you think that a child like in grade 3, 4 kind of level will be good with scissors, and they aren't always necessarily. I think perhaps with English you are overthinking this, and I would just say let's all try and cut out the picture and see. Just make sure that they're not stabbing each other or hurting themselves. But I think, don't worry, let them try, and if they need help, then you can help them. But I do find that students are not, small motor skills are not as advanced as one would imagine. I think it's just like this all the time. All right. Difference between a handbook and a resource pack. Hi, Moses. Good question. I don't know that there is a definitive answer. Handbook is probably like a textbook. And each school, like if you work for a school online or at a school in a place, in a country, or in your own country, a handbook is probably the textbook. And a resource pack might be, something where the resource pack might not actually be a book. It might be a bunch of links, or maybe already there are some things printed out for you. Resource pack sort of implies that you get given something. Here's your package. So it might be a real package, or it might just be links to worksheets or to materials or to videos or poems or writing. So I think that's the difference between a handbook and a resource pack. So I'd say a handbook is like a textbook, so either online or in reality a book, and a resource pack will be bits and pieces of different things. So read, songs, videos, even test papers. So different things will be in a pack, and each one will be like, this is starters, or this is preschool, or this is IELTS. But I think that's the kind of thing. All right, I hope that's helpful. Parent of a neurodivergent child, ADHD. For some children, active might mean they need to move and have a break. Absolutely. I'd be thinking, why are they active or misbehaving? Is it behavior or is it need? Absolutely. 100%. And that is one of the things that as teachers, it's not always hard to tell, because you don't necessarily know. It can look the same. It can look the same. There's some child who's now in my daughter's class at school, and I don't know him personally yet, but I know his older brother as an adult. He's a very talented, hardworking guy. But this child, so in the old-fashioned way, hyperactive. And I remember just thinking that he just needs to run. I don't know if he has ADHD or if he's just needs to run. And then there was a school, my daughter is now in grade 12, so this is many years back. There was a school event, it's called a night marathon. So then it doesn't go all night, but they run for hours. And this child, who I always thought needed to run, did something like he ran for 7 hours, and like really did just need to run. So I think often they just need to move and have a break, or shake out their hands, or, as I said, change the activity. You can't just say, leave that behind. But we'll finish our worksheet in 5 minutes. Let everyone jump up, stretch. You either cool down or you warm up, depending on the weather. But I do think that those things do change the energy. Great comment and question. And it is such a real thing. And I mean, obviously now there are names for these things. I think ADHD always existed. There just were names that were not as helpful. It just said, oh, he's so hyperactive. And it didn't necessarily mean anything. So great question and comment. Okay. So hi, I see people from Daisy from Uganda. Hi. Thanks, Lucia. I hope it was helpful. Yes, very nice thing on scissors again. Use of scissors can develop their small muscles, and it's not dangerous if there's guidance and supervision. 100%. Small motor skills, those are all the things. From preschoolers just with blocks and Play-Doh, and then with writing and drawing and pencils that are triangular pencils. So absolutely, small motor control, all of those things, and scissors and sticky tape and blowing and all of those things that you do in regular school, you can use in teaching English as well when you have a class of smaller kids. But absolutely, very nice. Hi, other people. Do we still use it? I'm probably going to say that wrong. Kinesthetic learners. Yes, there was another webinar a few months ago as well about students' different styles. So some students learned from moving and having shapes. Everyone make an A, and then remember that, and others from reading, and others from visual, and so yes, we do still use. I read that term just a few months ago doing another webinar on students with, wasn't so much mixed ability, but how students have different styles of learning. Some you will know, like if you studied, was it easier for you to hear the stuff and remember it, or read it? Did you learn by reading? Do you take in information from reading or listening or seeing, like just seeing pictures? So as we know, if we right throughout our lives as a scholar, as a student, and then in learning a second language, which is the way that works better for us, and everyone has their own different way of doing it. All right. Thank you. It's so great when teachers share. So I see one student say thank you to another student. That's why these sessions are so interesting and useful. I do feel they're useful. And then you teach your students and you sort of get in, I won't say a rut, a routine. You get into a routine of knowing that one's a naughty one, and you sort of shrug it off. And I often think that when you have some kind of dialogue like this, even though it sounds like me just talking, but we are all chatting, then you get new ideas. All right. There's another great point. Also on misbehavior in girls with things like ADHD. They may look dreamy and unfocused, but this is not bad behavior either. Absolutely. Studies show that some girls with ADHD tend to be active inwards. Very, very, I have read that as well. So they're not the hyperactive ones. They're just somewhere inside their head is somewhere. Completely. And as English teachers, we do a TEFL course, or maybe we've taught other things in our lives, or maybe we are teachers at schools before, and we've all heard of these things, but we're not all psychologists or psychiatrists, and we don't always know this, and it's hard to know. It's hard to know. who is being naughty and who is just literally just learning in a different way. Doing it a different way. And, I saw there's more to that same comment, which I will share because it's very, very useful comment. This might look like they are looking out the window off task, but might be very busy thinking about something they just find interesting in their minds, which might be what they're learning about, or it might be the book they're trying to write. I think my daughter has a bit of that. She does generally, it's all fine, but she goes to a school that predominantly is in her second language, and I think not hearing English all the time, which is the first language, then her mind wanders completely. And so if you are hearing a second language, it's harder to focus on. If you're being taught in your mother tongue, then that's one thing. So if you are in a TESL or TEFL course, then you are being taught in a language that you don't even understand. And then we expect these students to concentrate and do the work. Challenges. All right. Very, very good comment. I was going to say, I just saw a thing on Jamie Oliver, the chef, who does often try and save people from their bad diets. And now he's got a whole thing that he is dyslexic and is trying to get people to look at that as well. So people are opening up more about these kind of things. Obviously, they've been around specifically in the last, I'd say, 20 years, but now more than ever, teachers and parents and everyone is having to look at this all the time. So great comment. All right, another great. Can students work together how can they? So we did go through some of this earlier in the slides, learner-to-learner interaction. So there are different ways. Obviously, you can put stronger students with weaker students. Weaker is perhaps a negative word, but you know what I mean. I don't mean anything like that. So those who are doing very well with those who are struggling a bit together in a group, that might work. That the one who's doing a bit better and succeeding can help out the one who's struggling a little. Or, as we said earlier, that maybe those who are struggling can work together, and then their pace, then they're not rushed. So because they're, say, 2 students or 3 students, they're all struggling, and then they can maybe be in a group and work together. And those who are making great strides can work in a group together as well and make great strides together. So there are 2 different ways. So you can pair or group those that are doing very well together, or mix the groups up. So as we said throughout the slides, it depends on the activity and depends on, is this a speaking task? And it's something that you have to look at with each exercise activity that you do with your students. You go, okay, this one, Bob needs to work with Jennifer in this exercise, and that next one, those 3 boys must work together. Or another one, they must definitely not work together because they are being disruptive. So you really have to take it exercise by exercise, activity by activity. I hope that's helpful. Just thinking about it is making me tired. All right, another great question. Get kids of different ability to work well together. Great topic. I imagine not all strong students might be so receptive to work with less strong students. You sell this to them. You get some kind that you do get some who are, they're the mother of the group and they always want to help the little ones. You do get those kind of help. I lost connection there for a moment. So yes, very, very good question. I will repeat it in case we lost connection there for too long. But yeah, I mean, you as a teacher, you will know eventually. You will know that Jane is just not into it. She has 3 younger brothers at home and she's just not into it. Whereas Peter is great and always takes over and helps the others. I'm now just thinking of one student. She's so helpful and loves to help the others, and others are definitely not. So I just have to look. How do you sell this to them? Yeah, it could be a hard sell. Again, you see these kids, I don't know, once a week or twice a week or every day, and different activities. It won't be all the time. It will be a group. They won't always be paired with that child. They'll be, it won't be all the time. It's like just for today or just till the end of the week. But you'll mix them up. But very good question as well. Okay. Continuous monitoring is important completely within each class. And then, as we said earlier in the slides, so that you check in with them as well. So, how's that child was struggling, now they're doing so well. So not just within each class, but within a week or within a month or within a term. So it really is all the time. We can never rest. But so all the time you check in. Such great comments. Mixing them together in groups like the fast pace with the time takers works. So completely. So sometimes it's a mixed group. Yeah, certain things definitely can be a mixed group. And everyone works together. The class is half. And then other times, if it's a more concentrated task, so it's really, and it's not just a one-off. So it's not just one task ever. It's today's lesson, and then there'll be tomorrow's lesson and next week. So today they're working together. Maybe they hate each other, but maybe they'll only work again together in a month. So it depends. Your class, is it, how long are they together? So so many different things all working together. But I do think fast-paced with the time takers can be good together. This is also a great comment. Adults' attention span is about 20 minutes, especially when they're learning a foreign language. Does the student's ability factor into how long their concentration is? I think so. I do think so. Like if you think, like just imagine watching a movie, a TV series in your second language. Most of us have a second language we're either good at or not so good at. So imagine watching a TV series in a second language with no subtitles and think, how long will your attention span last for? So I think it would definitely factor in how long their concentration span is. And I also think that nowadays the youth from millennials and Gen Z, I think that their attention span is frighteningly short. So that could be millennial adults. I think older adults, like very old adults, maybe not so much. Middling adults, perhaps longer. We had to wait a whole week till the next episode of a TV series came so we could concentrate, as old folk. So our attention span's a bit longer. Is nowadays, children's attention span is, YouTube videos too long, hence TikTok. So it is quite frightening. And adults' attention span 20 minutes. So young kids, 5 minutes? I don't know. You have to change. You have to change the pace. Change the pace of what you're doing quite frequently to keep their attention span. And then some are struggling for different reasons, and then oh my goodness, why do we even do this? It's the whole idea is like we do it because when someone learns something, it is so rewarding. So that's why we do this. So we work through all of this because when someone actually learns something, it's great, and then we remember why we do this, why we teach, and why we love teaching. Okay, great. We have 10 more minutes. So it's still time for a few more questions. Also, I think if you are busy with working on your assignments and planning lessons, then think about this as well while you are doing your lesson planning. Keep it in mind. And a lot of the assignments do keep that in mind and say that they will pair stronger students with weaker students, which is great. Lucia again, great question. Give them a break so they can chat and go back to this. I think so. Yeah, as we said earlier, yeah, you just put down your work, depending on the age, stretch up, run around fly around the class like butterflies, and maybe different insects. Then they're learning different vocabulary at the same time. You can always keep them calm. Worms are always good. They're calm, quiet. Insects. I often get students who run around just to break and then we can get back and carry on. So I do think a break is good. You could add fun vocabulary things in when you do those, so they're not wasting time. It's 2 minutes, but they've learned the names of 7 different animals because they've just been bears, and now they are quiet mice, and they're sitting down back on their seats, and we carry on. So I think that does work. Cheetahs are also good because then they run, they're back. Bears scream and shout, calm down, come back. And all the soft, gentle, quiet ones, tortoises, and we are back in the class. I do love animals, so I always have fun. Students doing it. It breaks just changes the energy and refocuses everyone. You can't do the same one though. Although they go, I want to be bears again. So you can change it up every different lesson. I have actually taught adults as well. I don't get them to run around like bears. Okay. Give us some example how you would use vocab prompts in practice. So in what respect? I just gave some that's with calming down. So it depends what lesson you're doing and what level. So I'm not entirely sure how to answer that question. Sarah, give me more. You've given so much. I'm sure you can reword it. I understand a bit better. It depends what you're working on. Under differentiation. Okay. I'm going back into my levels of difficulty. Yes. Okay. That's okay. Thank you. You've reminded me of the actual webinar that I am taking. Yes. So it says here for grammar, you can provide different levels of difficulty in your worksheets. So, for instance, we are learning about the trip to the zoo. Thanks, Sarah. The trip to the zoo. And the students have learned the names of 5 animals. So the other students must come up with another 5 animals. Now, I would just take the topic that you're busy with and just expand on it. So exactly the same work, but just add extra. So all complex language. Also, so I mark a lot of assignments. So say you're doing, and this is, so say you're doing first conditional with a class. And first conditional, we know, if I study, I will pass. So then you can tell those ones that you know that you can swap it around. I will pass if I study, and get them to swap all of them around, or that they can take the work you've just done and turn all of that into questions as well. So you take the work you're doing and just add a little extra onto it. And with extra vocabulary prompts, if we are doing greetings, you just add an extra couple. If you're doing whatever vocab you're working on, I'll just add more, add some extra. I do think vocabulary in particular, if one has to speak a second language, it's vocabulary where one falls down. You go, I just got it. And then you're like, what on earth is that word? So adding extra vocabulary especially for students who are doing very well, is always going to be great. I hope that helps. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for the great question. Well, we're almost wrapping up. So at the end of there's still time for a little bit, and I do talk too quickly, but right at the end of this, we have what is called a survey monkey. It's not a real monkey. It's just, it's a link with a QR code that you can click on and give us some feedback about how useful you find webinars in general, how useful you found today's webinar. And so I'll put up the details for that in a moment. I've got this as well. There we go. There's a link. And then we go to the next page like that. All right, which says, so tell us what you think of the webinar and if it was useful at all. I do know I talk too much, so and I sometimes talk a bit quickly, but I hope that you did get some use, and I think it's a very, very interesting topic today, and something that you don't necessarily think of. You sort of take it for granted that not all your students are the same. You know, in any class of any lesson that you teach, the students are never going to be the same. They're going to learn, like we mentioned, that kinesthetic learning as well. So different level, and then different, they learn in different ways as well. So not only are they at different level, they also learn in different ways. So all of this to take into account every time we plan a lesson, every time before we go into a classroom, every time you go, okay, what am I going to do with those children today? So thank you very much for joining me today, joining us at TTA. And also, if there are any topics that you would love for us to do a webinar about, you are welcome to add that in with your comments and feedback on the QR code Survey Monkey. Thank you. It is great to meet everyone. It's great because, from around the world, and we all sit in our own houses and can chat to different teachers from around the world. It's amazing. It's so useful for all of us. Thank you. Ellen and Lucia, thank you. Karomi, thank you. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of the weekend. In South Africa, there's a long weekend because Monday the 16th is Youth Day. So some people are having a long weekend. Some people still work on weekends, on public holidays. And others hope you are enjoying your nice warm summer. Here, our winter is not really that extreme, except for South Africans, it is extreme because we don't have central heating. So it feels very, very cold to us, even though it's not really that cold. Except in the morning it's like 3. So winter can be a challenge. So everyone around the world have a lovely day and evening. And thank you so much for having great questions and great advice and helping each other out. So enjoy the rest of your weekend and thanks. Bye.